All right, I need everybody to go on Rumble right now and follow my page so you don't miss out on any videos or live streams. Anytime I share the links on X, they get hidden due to the fact that we are no longer allowed to post external links on X that get broadcasted out to everybody. So even if you have your notifications on X, you might not get it. So follow, turn the notifications on. That way you don't miss any of the free content I'm putting out here in the future.
A long, long time ago, I can still remember how garbage indicators used to make me cry. But I knew if I took a chance that I could maybe do a happy dance, and maybe I'd be rich beyond desires. But Twitter furus, they made me shiver. Their every discord never delivered bad news from the broker. I was poorer than an old hooker. I can't remember if I cried when I read about Mando's same divide, but something told me he's the guy, the day his model supplied. So bye-bye volume and RSI. Drove my leverage to a maxi that would make Sailor cry. In galaxy trading, we're on a rocket ride, singing this'll be the day I'll provide. This'll be the day I'll provide. Bye-bye volume and RSI. Drove my leverage to a maxi that would make Sailor cry. In galaxy trading, we're on a rocket ride, singing this'll be the day I provide.
You really didn't think there was a chance I was going to start this without that anthem. Thank you again to @RealJakeLake on X for making that song. Absolutely fantastic. And welcome back to everybody. Before we get going here, need you to all like the stream, share it wherever you're watching it, X, YouTube, on Rumble. I'm going to cut the stream everywhere but Rumble here in a few minutes. So if you're on X, come on over, rumble.com/Mando Trading, and we'll get rolling. So anyways, great week overall. If you go back and watch the Mando's Morning Brew, it's almost as if we knew exactly what was happening, huh? Anyways, we'll get into in-depth analysis on the indices. We will get into individual names. On Monday night, we're going to be doing a monthly prep stream every month for the first day of the month. I like to do one where we examine monthly time frame setups, because to me, if it doesn't set up on the monthly, there's no reason I should even be looking at it. All right. Also, we're going to add in a flow component to this stream as well. So I will pull up the flow. I'll take requests for whatever you want to take a look at over there, and I'll explain how I'm using that in confluence with my charting, which to me is above all everything else. But the scanner can be the flow can be an excellent tool as a scanner to identify setups that look beautiful on the chart. So with that said, we'll get going here. And oh, good, the Mets are getting smoked already. That's great. All right, anyways, let's get this thing rolling now. Let's see, we had a few requests on X, but we'll get to those after I do my normal stuff here. So first things first, let's take a look over at NASDAQ. So as you see, this monthly candle is about to finish. 2 days left on there. We'll touch more on this on Monday. Now coming over to the weekly time frame, you thought I was kidding when I said showtime. I was not kidding. Okay. And I told you, you go back and listen to what we had talked about. Okay. This is an area where you can absolutely 100% justify a retracement from. Okay. We had ES take out the all-time highs. Bing. Okay. And I'm not trading off of trendline garbage. I'm just showing you just as an example of how we took out all-time highs on ES, and we have yet to do so yet on NASDAQ. Why do I gravitate towards NASDAQ? Well, I'm more often than not gravitating towards tech as a whole anyways, right? I do tend to trade those individual names much more. And to me, I like the way it moves better than SPY. Although SPY it's been cleaning up a little bit lately, but I would say NASDAQ to me is ideally what I would prefer to trade over SPY. Just a nice exposure to tech, and futures wise, I think it runs much smoother. So, but anyways, we got into this imbalance right here, and ultimately there's your rejector to start. Okay, so we can crush this down into a little bit more precision here. If we were to zoom in a little bit on this, now we're on the daily time frame. If we look at our most recent run from low to high, we have yet to create a bearish imbalance here on the daily time frame. Until I see a bearish imbalance on this daily time frame, nothing has changed for me. Okay, you'll notice that if you go back and watch anything that I've put out over the last week, maybe even 2 weeks at this point, when I said when we get into showtime, I'm hands off until I see an imbalance. Okay, and that's still the case. If I don't see an imbalance to the upside, I'm not going to be looking for continuation just yet. If I don't see an imbalance to the downside, I'm not looking for that discount retracement just yet. Okay, you're going to see a lot of crazy things being said on Twitter. Like I just saw one, somebody said we're going back to 14K. It's just a guessing game, right, for most people. But if we're using what we have in front of us to actually create a thesis on what we're doing, I think you could be much more effective as a result of that. So until there's an imbalance, I'm just cooling, right? It's showtime. Allow price to show you what the next move is. Okay, so that's kind of how I'm maneuvering here on NASDAQ moving forward. Let me just confirm over here and make sure. ES did not create an imbalance to the downside just yet either. So again, that's perfectly fine. Okay, here would be your new range on ES after we completed the Mando model here on the daily time frame from your low to your high. Here's your discount retracement. Here's your bullish imbalance. There's your run for highs. Okay, so this is our new range set, well off of discount of our current range, which is all good, all great. But until I see an imbalance to the downside, I'm not going to jump it and try and nail top, because odds are you're going to get an opportunity back in that imbalance formed anyways. So for example, right, there's your opportunity. So you will get another opportunity at it. That's fine. But that's what I got overall on the indices moving forward into next week. Again, we will kind of examine some of these monthly time frame, monthly setups coming up here on Monday once we get the final closure of our September candle, which is to begin next week. So that's what I have just for the indices right there. Now, one thing I want to look at prior to getting into the individual names, actually, let me do this. I'm going to stop sharing here. This is something new, so I just want to see how I can maneuver all of this. I can come on over here. Beautiful. And I should be able to do it just like this. Let me know if you guys can see my Cheddar Flow screen. I believe you can. Should be able to at least. Okay. Well, listen, at the end of the day, what matters to me is what is on the chart. That's always, to me, going to be the be all end all. But you can find a lot of hidden gems just by scrolling through this and specifically sorting premiums. Or if you're seeing some unusual names, such as one that Seeker brought up earlier, right? I want to take a look at that. I'm sure he saw some flow on it, and that's the reason why it came to his attention. But one thing that I've been posting over the weekend is just how you have the flow confluence with what you're seeing on the chart, and oftentimes that's how it lines up. So for example, if I want to pop over here and just take a look at for example, let's look at a setup that I like right now. It's Tesla. Okay, if we were to look at Tesla and we could sort premium and do whatever we want to do, honestly, I'm going to go to the past week's flow, right? So look, again, not the end all be all, but to me, this gives us a nice little indication as to, okay, do we see anywhere where things are slowing down that might prevent our setup from, accelerating with the speed at which we would desire? And to me, seeing $159 million to $57.7 million, the call to put ratio, to me, that's a big discrepancy. And that makes me feel pretty good that we're going to get that continuation move and ultimately complete the Mando model here at 271. So that would be with Tesla, just for example. Another one is NVIDIA, because NVIDIA was at a pretty interesting or precarious spot going into this week, and it was one that I wanted to keep an eye on. And realistically, going into this week, it was kind of a showtime situation to that as a whole, right? Now, with that being said, I'm looking at what I'm seeing come in throughout this week, and to me, it's kind of giving me an indication as to what direction ultimately we're going to go see on the video, which I, personally believe that it's still higher. It's just a matter of what comes first. Do we see a retracement into a lower imbalance prior to making that move higher, right? Because all in all, if you get enough time, odds are you're going to be all right. But if we want to make this as precise as possible and not see that, little bit of downside into the imbalance prior to our move, then how can we be precise on the smaller time frames, if you will, right? And again, looking at something from this perspective helps out quite a bit. But really, the big winner here, and this is really the first name I wanted to talk about in terms of names outside of the indices, I guess you could say, right? And ultimately, that's simply put, it's Coinbase. This is this one caught my eye as I was scanning through before, and I'm seeing a stupid amount of money come through on Coinbase. Mostly the January contracts, even some leaps mixed in here, but that's a whole lot of money in confluence with what we're seeing on the chart. So let me come on over here, and I got to disconnect this share for a second. I'll pull my screen back up, but this leads me into my whole idea on Bitcoin. So hold on, let me pull this back up again and share it with you guys. But here, so this is what I'm seeing from the Coin Monthly perspective. Last week, what did we talk about? And again, I know I say this, but really go back. I think it'll be very beneficial to hear it from someone who is anticipating it prior to it happening, and then ultimately unfolding the way that was anticipated, right? But ultimately, I just want to see a monthly close back inside this imbalance. That's, to me, the most encouraging thing that we could see. And thus far, pretty good. Now, 2 more days, close back inside this bullish imbalance, and now we're talking, right? Regardless, it seems as though we are going to form this bearish imbalance. It doesn't necessarily have to be as big as it is right now. There's still 2 days, still make up some more ground. But with that bearish imbalance forming, I don't really value that all of that much as a rejector, meaning that I think we need to go see lower prices from that point. If anything, I view that as a speed bump. Why do I view that as a speed bump? Due to the fact that we've already gotten into discount of our bullish range, right? This is a bullish price run from your low to your high. Here's your discount retracement, ultimately looking for a high to complete my model here on a monthly perspective. Okay. Now we drop this down into the weekly time frame, and this just goes to show the absolute perfect level of precision that you see in this idea of reading price. From your low to your high, here's your discount bullish imbalance, right? Here's your run. Again, these, I don't really view them as anything more than speed bumps. And look how perfectly we close on that bearish imbalance on the weekly time frame. It's, something to be said for that, right? Now, the key area, and this really goes for all of these crypto, Bitcoin, whatever, the names that are associated with Bitcoin as a whole, the big move, and you're going to notice as I'm going to flick through a few of these charts, but they all are essentially set up the same, where we have potential to create a bullish breaker here on the weekly time frame. Okay, you have your low, your high, your lower low. If we were to get a break up above that 211.92, then I would anticipate this high of the sequence to act as a support level moving forward. Now, if you've watched my video on the most powerful setup in trading, you'll know that breakers are lethal. Okay, and I show millions of examples in that video, but that is something that I think if it were to happen at this point, then we see what I think is going to happen on Bitcoin, which here it is. Okay, we look at Bitcoin and we'll notice, you're going to hear me say the same exact little slogan over and over again. Low to your high, discount retracement into a bullish imbalance for a run through highs to complete the Mando model at 73,794. Now, this week, we got up through this previous area of buy side liquidity, okay, closing above, creating a bullish imbalance in the process, all encouraging. Now, the thing that stands out the most to me on Bitcoin and why I feel like 73,794 could come relatively quickly is due to the fact that we have something here called a low resistance liquidity run, meaning we do not have any imbalances in between this pool of buy side, these relative equal highs, this pool of buy side, and this pool of buy side. Okay, there are no higher time frame levels in the mix here. Okay, you might be able to go down to an hourly and see some, maybe an hourly imbalance, or maybe even who knows, maybe a daily imbalance in the mix there. But if we look at it from a weekly perspective, we don't have that big pool of orders that created an imbalance in price to essentially give us an area to worry about or even think of as a speed bump. So I'm really viewing this as a low resistance liquidity run. And if we were to get that, I don't think 73,794 is all. I think there could be much more to it. The only problem is for me to give you an exact number, like, I was about to curse bad, but I forgot I'm on YouTube and X right now. A clown on X telling you, oh, Bitcoin is going to 84,593 because no, you're just making up stuff now. We've never been up there. There's no liquidity up there. We have no idea at what point from here that we are going to stop dead in the tracks and start to pull back. Okay. There's nothing to it. You can use, oh, well, I did the, close my eyes and spin my mouse and it turned out to be at 82,000. So that's where we're going. You can use any of those, but there's no actual substance behind what you're saying. That's the issue I have. So, but ultimately, I believe Bitcoin goes higher. Coinbase, the flow would check out with what we already had on the chart. We have a bunch of these miners that look pretty good as well. A lot going on there, but this is one that I definitely wanted to touch on because I'm really liking this look. Nothing on the weekly time frame that would really suggest anything lower. And even, I know I said we're going to do the monthly next week, but I'll look at it from this perspective here. Monthly bullish imbalance. So far, so good. Again, no imbalances here. This looks pretty clean. So that is Bitcoin, miners, Coinbase, anything associated with Bitcoin as a whole. So let's keep on rolling here. I got a few names that I want to take a look at, and then I'll do whatever ones you guys want to look at as well. So first up, of course, my child, Tesla. Let's pull them up. Okay, so looking at Tesla from a monthly perspective here, still a beauty. Look at these highs, no imbalances in between. Something similar to what we saw on Bitcoin, eh? Okay, let's pull over on the weekly time frame. All right, so let's just do this one. Okay. We took out this high right here to change the state of delivery or shift our market structure back to the bulls by this price run here from our low to our high. We get our discount retracement into a bullish imbalance. Also, sweeping liquidity in the inverse direction of our overarching trend, giving us a run back up through highs. That is a completion of the Mano model, folks. Guess what? Round two's coming. From your low to your high, here's your discount retracement into a bullish imbalance, turtle soup sweep, and almost 271, Mano model complete. There's a couple other buy side targets here, 278.98, 299.29, and beyond. Okay, so Tesla still a total babe. Really, any retracements into these imbalances here, they're going to get bought up quick, quote unquote, bought up quick. So that's Tesla, just still a beauty of his setup. This is one that's been, the focal point for me for a long time now. And it's just amazing to see how beautifully price is delivering on it. So that's Tesla. That's the first one I wanted to look at. The next one would be AMD, which has finally arrived at its showtime imbalance. Now, I am bullish on AMD, of course. The only thing here is that we have now swept our buy side objective, which we had talked about, 3 weeks ago? I don't know. I tweeted it somewhere down here, but total beauty. Closed above that level, which is a pretty good sign. We do have two untouched bullish imbalances below. Okay, that's something to just be wary about. Do we see a choppy move? Do we see some retracement back down into discount prior to our next liftoff? All possible, right? I'm using NASDAQ as the compass here to really kind of dictate what's happening with these individual names. But so far, a pretty good move. But again, this is showtime. When we approach showtime imbalances, right? Essentially what that is an imbalance in a smaller time frame discount while your overarching trend is the inverse. So for example, our higher time frame outlook for AMD, our bias is still bullish. The issue here with AMD is that by arriving at this bearish imbalance here, this most recent price run, so if you're to go down into a daily time frame or whatever, this is technically bearish. So at this point, I need price to show me what happens. Do we get this break up and through? If we get the break up and through, we're going to hunt 187.28 and then ultimately 227. If we're getting this sweep here and a retracement down into discount, that's fine. My drawn liquidity is still higher. The only issue that I would have with this is that it's going to take more time, right? And how am I going to be as precise as possible and try and nail my entries if I'm looking at lower time frames to take trades off of? But AMD still a beauty. These two untouched are, but you swept liquidity here. So I liked how we closed above. Okay. So really next week will be, especially the beginning of next week, to close out the monthly candle. And then we'll take a look and see what the reaction is when we ultimately get October 1's candle. Do we gap up? Do we gap down? Do we get any additional clues as to what happens first? Do we see here? Do we see a discount retracement? That's all I'm looking towards. But this is just the process I go through in order to ultimately, anticipate price and where price is going. What's next? Oh, I'll show you guys Mara too, because this one really lines up with Coinbase, what we were looking at, right? So the setup that we were looking at with Coinbase looked a little bit something like this. And actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to split the screen and just show you guys how close this is and really why that's viable at all. Okay. So very similarly, you have your low to your high, relative equal highs up here, discount retracement into a bullish imbalance here. Beauty, beauty, beauty. Low, high, lower low. Remember that number? What was it? 211 something? 211.92. Okay. Low, high, lower low. Break up and through. Anticipate that candle to act as a support. But do you see how they're both very similarly in the same type of setup as a result? And, obviously driven by the same vehicle. But the only difference here that you have is that Coinbase actually has a bearish imbalance, which again, I don't anticipate that acting as much more than just a speed bump, but that has an imbalance while Mara does not. Okay. We closed above our previous bearish volume imbalance here. So, but I just wanted to quickly show you guys the similarities between the two. And why I'm anticipating higher prices for something like Bitcoin. So yeah, that is Mara. I had one victory lap that I wanted to do, and that's on Rocket Lab. So this one was an absolute banger. This one dates back a little bit, but if you go back, I think it's May-ish. If you go back to May, yeah, right over here, or April. I'm sorry. Go to my Twitter. Just go into the search bar and type in @Mando Trading with the $ RKLB, and tell me what you see. And I'll leave it at that. But yep. So that is a two bagger. That's what we call 200% moves, right? Two baggers. But that's two bagger, 50% still looming overhead. This is a beauty, another name with a lot of flow coming in as well. If you're buying it now, you're about $6 late, but just for reference, you can anticipate price well in advance. And that's why I do it on Twitter. So I can go back and say, what do you think? I'm just pulling this out of my, what? Don't think so. But anyways, before we continue on here, I'm going to cut the X and YouTube streams. We're going Rumble exclusive. So if you're not on Rumble, come on over, rumble.com/Mando Trading.
Bonus points.